Good evening and welcome to the April 22nd, 2025 Development Review Commission hearing. The purpose of the Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power, and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognized the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, businesses, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to the City Council are not final decisions. All right, here this evening on the commission to my right, we have Commissioner Stefan Richter, Larry Tom, alternate Commissioner Charles Redman, and then on my left, we have Commissioner Joe Forte, Commissioner Linda Spears, and Commissioner Barbara Lloyd. From staff, we have Jeff Tamalevich, Ryan Levesque, Michelle Dalkey, Karen Stovall, Lucas Jensen, Joanna Berry, and Jason Wolf. So for members of the public who wish to speak this evening, you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak, and staff will assist in monitoring that time for us. Also, please note that if you are online, the WebEx chat box is not monitored or moderated. So if you are here to speak tonight, we do have these comment cards. Please fill them out and bring up to Miss Berry. So during our study session, we reviewed the agenda and have identified a number of items that we are planning to hear on our consent agenda. Our intent is to approve those with one single vote. If you are here to see and speak on any of those items, please make sure you fill out a card and bring it up to the front. Currently, our consent agenda is planned as item 3A, Tempe Townhomes, item 4A, Pramer Residence, and item 4B, the 2911 Church Education Building. All right. Our next item on the agenda is our consideration of meeting minutes from the April 8th meeting. Looking for a motion for approval.
Move to approve Development Review Commission study session minutes and regular meeting minutes from 4/8/25.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in approval? All right. The motion by Commissioner Tom, second by Commissioner Richter, and all in approval. All right. The next item on the agenda is a motion for approval of our consent agenda.
Move to approve our consent, which is 3A, 4A, and 4B.
And a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? All right. We have a motion for consent agenda approval by Commissioner Tom, second by Commissioner Richter, and that was approval 7-0. All right. The next item on our agenda is We are going to hear item 5A, which is the 7th Street Residential. We'll just ask that the applicant come up and present the case to the commission. After that, we'll follow with a presentation from staff.
Okay, thanks. All right. There's a lot of stuff, sorry. All right. Thank you, commissioners, Ms. Chair, members of the commission. I'm Darren Sender, Sender Associates. We're here representing Wexford Developments and Core Spaces. I have also here tonight, I'm afraid of your name, Doug Tichner. Did I say that right? I always say it wrong. Okay. I'm sorry. Tichner, Doug Tichner. I always say it wrong. And we also have Mike Duffy from RSP, the architect. So obviously, he's the one that's going to talk more about the building. I would like to talk a little bit tonight about the kind of the history and the process that we've been through. But first, I'd like to have Doug say a few words. This is a big project. We've been working on it for 7 years. A lot of investments have gone into it. And I just kind of want to give you his perspective really quickly on the process.
Thank you. Doug Tichner, Senior Director of Development with Core Spaces. I just got to say that it's been a great process working with staff, and it kind of predates me to a certain extent, but since Core has come on in co-development fashion with Wexford, we've had very positive and productive conversations with staff to kind of get to the outcome where we are today, which is unlocked the development potential for this site in alignment with the long-range planning goals for this site in downtown Tempe. So thank you for your time tonight, and here to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. All right. So that's where I'd like to start. We've been working on this for about 7 years. The property was purchased, I'll go over the history a little bit, but the property was purchased around 2016. And development process started about that time. And we've been working with, Jeff and Ryan and Karen and Michelle and Mike and April as they came on board, and Josh and Zach and Mike and John. I mean, it's like everyone at the city has been involved in this in some way or another, and several of them aren't there anymore, but it's really been a collaborative process. There's been a lot of changes and a lot of history. I'm sure you're all familiar with the location. It is just southeast of where we're at right now. That's the official full development site. It encompasses a little over 3/4 of the block or so. The church property, I'll show you in a second where everything is. The church property, the office building, and then the House of Tricks property. That's there. So the red is what we call the development site. And that's actually the portion of it that will be developed. The sanctuary building, which will be preserved and actually transferred to the city, is on the northwest corner. They're up in white. The ancillary buildings to the south are planned to be demolished. There's an alley in between all of that that's going to be abandoned but retain easements, and it will be developed over. The office building you can see in the middle, that was the old Bluefish building, and then the prior House of Tricks. The Harry Walker House, which we'll talk about a little bit, is on the southeast corner of the site, and that was sort of the catering and an overflow restaurant for the House of Tricks. So just kind of another angle of it. This is kind of the full site that we acquired, that Wexford and Core have right now. So this is what we're calling the sanctuary site. This is the portion of the church that is the large open area. It is beautiful inside. You walk inside, it's just an open volume. And on both sides, there are beautiful, beautiful stained glass windows. I think there's 4 or 5 on each side, and they're huge. It brings the light into the space. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful building. That building is what will be preserved and given to the city. To the east is the Islamic Community Center, the ICC, and they own the property that remains on that block. They have the, what was a Phoenicia restaurant. I think that's going to be something new now. So they own all of that along Forest. To the west is the Brickyard. To the north, obviously, is City Hall. And to the south is the Union. And we'll get into this too. This is the what we call the church site. This was the original historic HP overlay site, which was designated. So it wasn't just the church or the buildings that were designated back in 2001. It was actually the whole site, everything that you see there. This is the office site that I'll refer to. This is the trick site. And then this is the delisting area. I'll get into that with the rezoning. As you see, it does not include the sanctuary building. So that will retain its HP overlay on that. General plan 2050 is similar to everything in the downtown. It's mixed use urban core over 65 DUA. And you can see that white portion is the sanctuary that we're retaining, and the red portion is our development site. The zoning for the property, again, city center, just like everything in downtown. And you can see that H, that was the church site, the original church site that we showed you earlier. And this is what we're proposing. We're proposing to eliminate the majority of the H and then retain that on the sanctuary. So project highlights, kind of in a nutshell, the project contains a lot of really cool parts. We've had a long time to look at this, and we are going to be including murals and public art in various places in the pedestrian alley, on some of the exterior walls. We're working with RSP architects to kind of figure out where that's going. We also heard a lot about the new nonprofit in Tempe that could potentially curate some of that. So we're going to talk to them and see what their involvement could potentially be. We're complying with the voluntary green building code, saving the sanctuary building and leaving that building intact. We're giving and transferring the title to the sanctuary building and all the property to the city. And that would happen at, I believe that's at building permit. I believe that's the trigger for that. I could be wrong, but I think that's correct. We're saving the Harry Walker House. That's that little house that was on the east side of the House of Tricks. That is on the National Register. The sanctuary and the church property is on the Tempe Register. And the Harry Walker House is on the National Register, but not on any city register, except for it is historic eligible. So that will be moved. We're actually going to pick it up and move it. We don't have a location yet. We're working on that with the city. It will be moved to a city-owned property. We have a 4,000 square foot downtown restaurant that is, we have a 4,000 square foot restaurant space, and we are looking for a restaurateur to go into that space. And I don't know if you know, Wexford Developments has a lot of connections with restaurants in the area, so they're really excited to get some new restaurants. I think that the new one that opened on Friday at the old P.F. Chang's space, that's one of their properties. So they're looking at getting something like that in the space. That would be kind of more of a, upscale kind of cool place, but still something that everyone can go to and have a nice dinner. And now that Trix is gone, we definitely need some of that. Extensive landscaping and trees on the frontages, enhanced pedestrian experience. The building permit fees will go to Hometown for All, the 50% of the permit fees. We are creating a pedestrian connection from Mill Avenue to College. That would be through the alley, so that alley will remain open. We're providing much needed housing. We're including 4 public EV superchargers. So each one of those has a very, very large capacity, and it's a quick charge. So there's quick turnover of those vehicles. It's equivalent of 74 regular EV chargers. And we're also providing 30 EV ready spaces. The project supports the city's investment in light rail, in the streetcar, in the orbit system, in the bus system. It is a downtown urban type development that really supports the density that's required for those types of transit options that we have. And in its appropriate development, very complementary for the downtown city center. So the history, I won't go through all of this, but the original development site, again, the church property was purchased in 2016 by Wexford Developments. Sam Gordon is principal. and they are now currently the joint venture partner with Core Spaces. The original development site was smaller. It was just that church site that I showed you, and it was intended to just sort of raise everything that was there, develop a fresh project over all of that. And we began designing of this site in around 2016. In 2017, the congregation submitted their own demolition request. They just wanted the building gone. They wanted the whole site just flattened. So that was submitted. It didn't go anywhere. Wexford then had the opportunity to purchase the Bluefish site next door, the office site, the office property. They then redesigned their project to incorporate that property. We submitted our first SPR, first pre-app in 2019, and we submitted a demo permit for the entire original development site with the Bluefish building in 2020. That request was denied by the HPC, and Sam was ready at that point to wait the 6 months and move forward with the project. Then the House of Tricks property became available when Robin and Bob started talking about retirement. And as a neighbor, Sam knew Robin and Bob. They kind of got together and ended up purchasing that property in 2021. At that point, he redesigned the project. It was talking with the city a little bit about how to save. We've always talked to the city about how to save the sanctuary. We were always talking to them about it, but this really gave them the opportunity to do it. We've got a much larger development site, much more land to develop on, could kind of move the building off of the sanctuary property a little bit. So we had a significant amount of talks from 2018 to 2024 about how to save that property. So an agreement was reached that we would save the sanctuary building portion, we would move the Harry Walker building, and in 2023, a formal entitlement application was finally submitted. Shortly thereafter, Wexford and Core joined forces, and we did a small amount of redesign, not a major amount, but a small amount of redesign at that point, and then submitted another formal application in 2024. So to facilitate the Historic Preservation Commission's review of everything, we had to submit a second demolition permit to kind of trigger everything to move forward. And we did that in 2025, just for the ancillary buildings on the south side of the sanctuary. So just kind of the classrooms and the office section of it, and for the balance of the site, and to relocate the Harry Walker House. So in 2025, we asked the Historic Preservation Commission to approve several requests to facilitate our moving forward with the project. They ultimately denied those requests, but we ended up going to City Council. City Council approved our appeal of those requests. So they overturned the denial on appeal. Here's a little bit of history again. Our SPR 1, 2, and 3, 2019, 2022, and then the formal request 23, 24, and the two formal submittals, resubmittals in 25. Hearing history, we've been at the HPC since in 2020. We did several study sessions with the HPC and the DRC with you. 2024-25. We just finished the City Council appeal last week, a week ago, and the DRC were here tonight. That's where we're at. We're hoping to go to City Council introduction hearing on May 1st and the City Council final hearing on May 22nd. We've really tried to make sure we had some outreach. Obviously, over 7 years, we've had the ability to meet a lot of people, a lot of groups in this area. We've had several meetings with the Islamic Community Center. They're here tonight. And so 2023, 24, 25, some of the meetings and discussions we've had with them. We've had some meetings and discussions with ASU, 22, 23, and 25. And our neighborhood meeting was held on January 7th of this year, 2025. Some of the comments that we received from the Islamic Community Center, I just want to go over these right now because I don't know if they've seen the current plans, so I kind of want to set the record straight so they know. But their main concern, we understood, was the use of the alley. And it was a very valid concern. Our original design, it's an alley. Let's just put all our refuse on the alley. It's an alley. That's what it's for. Let's use use the alley for all our refuse. Use it for fire. Let's use it for trucks pulling into our site. Let's use the alley as an alley. But what they explained to us was that their entrance is on that alley. that's where they gather. That's where their entrance is. Their main entrance is right there. They have funerals, they have weddings, they have all their events are right there. So we had a meeting with them. I don't remember the exact date of that meeting, but I think it was in December of this past year, and really took a hard look at it. Our client sat down with the architect and just said, look, we need to move our refuse. We need to move all of our transformers, our electrical boxes off that alley and make this work. So we took about 2 months, I believe, kind of stopped everything, took a couple months, and was able to figure out a plan where we took all of that and pulled it inside our building. It's all inside. The transformers are on an area that are open to the air because they have to be, but they're still inside behind a wall. So none of that is visible from the alley. None of that they can see from their gathering areas, from their entry. So we made sure we did that, met with them, showed them the new plans. Early on, they talked about the roof deck amenity. We had the roof deck amenity on the top floor on the east side initially. And their concern was, noise and people up there and people looking down at their property. So we went ahead and moved it to the west side of our roof deck. So there's no amenity on the top deck on the east side. Fourth floor mini deck, same kind of issue. We have a kind of a much lesser, more relaxing amenity on our fourth story deck. And again, we moved all of that to the west side, away from the ICC property. And we are restricting access to that other deck. Obviously it's open decking, nobody should be there anyway, but access will be restricted to that side. So nobody's over on that side looking over or, potentially throwing things like that. I don't know if they would do that, but you never know. Balconies was a concern as well. They didn't want a lot of balconies facing their property. We understood that. So at first we removed, main amount of balconies on that side. We still had a couple that were kind of in the corners of the building, in the little nook area. They didn't really you couldn't really see the ICC property, but, we ended up just getting rid of all of them. So we got rid of all the balconies. The setbacks, they were asking at that time why we had 0-foot setbacks, and what we said is, well, this is downtown urban development. This is, pretty compatible to what's out there right now, and it's very compatible to the downtown fabric. Parking, we understand, was a concern. They questioned the reduction in parking, concerned that our residents would be using up all of the on-street parking that their members use, and for their events. And our answer to that was, really, this is a highly urban area with a significant amount of transit. We've really got to make sure that we aren't bringing vehicles in here that don't need to be in the downtown. This is the amount of cars that is compatible with the type of development we're doing. Wexford and Core are comfortable with the number of vehicles, and we felt that was an appropriate number. Since then, we've actually increased the amount of parking spaces. We've added a floor to the building of parking spaces. And that was really a discussion we had with planning too, as we kind of came together on a number. We really were kind of looking to make sure that we were both comfortable with the parking requirements on the property. And we've come to an agreement. Everybody's happy, I believe. So we have the additional parking that we have now. And then we had at the neighborhood meeting, we heard a lot about the dog run. We had a dog run that was sort of adjacent to the northern portion of their property, and a small dog run, not a kennel or anything like that, but just a place for the dogs to go run around. And it was kind of next to where they have some apartments. And a lot of people mentioned to us, we really don't want that there. We've raised the walls, we made sure it's contained, it shouldn't be a problem, but we think we found a way to move that as well. So we're looking into that still, but we think we found a way to move that. So here's my little check marks. We've kind of been ticking these away. It's always on our mind. Every time we were looking at changing something or doing something, we thought, what can we do that's going to tick off something on their list? What can we do to help them, get rid of one of these items that they're concerned about? And we were able to do that, and that's pretty impressive, I think. The stipulations, we agree to all of the stipulations. We are fine We've been working with staff, obviously, on those. We're good with those. There's a couple of them that talk about, work with staff at a later date on a couple design elements or something, some small issues. We're okay with that. We're very happy to work with staff on a couple of these stipulations. This stipulation, I just wanted to let you know that we've chosen item C. We've added a floor of parking. So number 1 talks about adding some parking to get to the ratio of 0.195 spaces per bedroom, exclusive of commercial parking. So it's just the residential parking. And we did that by adding a floor and rearranging a few other spaces on the site. So they gave us a few options in the stipulation, and we have chosen the addition of above grade parking, which increased the building height. And what that did is it increased the overall building height from 315 to 325. So it was a 10-foot change. We're asking for, I think you heard, zoning map amendment, which is a delisting. That is the removal of the historic overlay on a portion of the property. We're asking for a PAD to create development standards for building height, parking, setbacks, and parking ratios. And then we're also asking for the DPR. On the zoning map amendment, it's a little different. Obviously, the zoning is CC, but in that part on the left is encircled with the white, it's historic preservation overlay. So what we're doing is we're getting rid of all of that except for the portion on the sanctuary. So it requires a rezoning because that's the process. When you place property as an historic designation in the city, you're basically zoning it. You are rezoning the property to an HP overlay. And if you want to get rid of it, they call it a delisting, and you are rezoning it to remove the HP overlay. That is the process that it goes through. So we are removing it from everything but the sanctuary, which is going to be saved and preserved. You can kind of see that here in red. The red on the left is the original church site. It is the current HP overlay site. And the one on the right, it will be the sanctuary site and the new historic preservation overlay site. The PAD, again, to create the development standards for building height, parking setbacks, and ratios. The building height, I just mentioned, it'll be 325 after the 1 floor parking is added. The parking setbacks on the north side on 6th Street will be 15 feet. And the residential parking ratios, I highlighted the commercial, but that's not included. The residential parking ratios will be the 0.195 per bedroom and 382 spaces provided. And that's not reflected on this or the drawings that were in the staff report. And the development plan review, I will let Mike from RSP show you all of the awesome design that he has done.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for your time. My name is Mike Duffy. I'm a principal with RSP Architects, and I'm going to share a little bit about the design since we've last spoke, as well as some of the history. As Darren mentioned, we're here on 7th Street. I think we're familiar with the site. We're at the intersection of 7th and Myrtle, in between the Islamic Cultural Center to the east and the Brickyard development on the west. We've got a couple additional shots here as well showing the context and some of the adjacent developments of a similar density, as well as a few shots of some of those nearby properties showing the compatibility with the context. Here we have a site plan aerial showing the tower footprint from above. To orient everyone, we've got the Brickyard on the left side again, ICC on the right, 7th Street, which is our main pedestrian entrance, and 6th Street to the north, which is our main vehicular entrance. One of the defining features of the design of this building is this sort of capital I shape or sort of a sideways H. And one of the things that this planning move has allowed us to do is really break down the overall mass. So as this tower meets parking podium, which has the activated retail restaurant and amenity uses at the ground floor, this sort of composition of the mass above allows us to create a few distinct masses when viewed from the east and the west as we move around the building, and allows us to break down otherwise long facades. And so I think this has done a lot for us from kind of a massing perspective to break down the overall presence as it sits in the context. Conceptually, this sort of H shape sits down on the parking podium, which is then above the amenity, or excuse me, the residential amenity spaces and the restaurant uses. We've tried to take further delineation of those masses and break down the facade further using materiality and color. So we've taken inspiration from other desert landscapes, rock formations, valley landscapes, as well as even patternings of fields to create this pattern on the facade that further breaks this down and makes it feel more like a collection of buildings than a single large mass. Inspiration for the base, we really wanted to create shaded, activated pedestrian streetscape, and we really wanted to create an elegant garage screening up above. At the tower, I think we've been trying to really balance interest and variation while keeping considered and rhythm and ordered facade elements as well, which you'll see as we get to the renderings. We've got a bit of both as we circulate around the tower. Moving into the renderings themselves, we've got a shot from the southwest. So we've got the Olive property on our right-hand side and the historic mayor's structure in the Brickyard on our left here. So we see that H or capital I-shaped plan breaking down the overall massing and giving you this feeling that you've got a couple of masses coming together. And then the different colors around the facade, these lighter colors and the darker volumes, as well as a varied composition of windows that provides variation around the facade and breaks down those elements even further. This is a view from the southeast corner, again, so showing that same rhythm. And one of the things that we've felt really strongly about is sort of minimizing and focusing on a slender tower as much as we can as we're breaking down these elevations at the east and the west. Moving around the building to the northeast here, another shot showing the variation of the color as we move around, and then a final shot sort of standing at or near City Hall, looking back from the northwest. Zooming into that pedestrian streetscape, this is that southwest corner. On the left-hand side, you see the railing for the ramp going down to the Brickyard parking lot, and this would be a shot of that kind of feature restaurant on the corner. So really playing up landscaping, trying to create a lot of shade trees and overhangs to create shaded outdoor space as you circulate along 7th Street, which is our main pedestrian frontage. And then moving east along 7th Street, we've got a shot of our main entrance. We've added some additional height here, some additional overhangs, and a focal point to really signify the main entrance along 7th Street. Walking through some of the plans, I'll jump ahead to the ground floor plan. The 7th Street is our main pedestrian entrance. We've got angle-in spaces as well as some drop-off spaces. And then on the left-hand side, we have the restaurant. Center of the plan, we have a lobby, and then on the right-hand side, we've got a resident lounge space. The center of the block, so to speak, is kind of service. We've got that reconfigured refuse area where we're bringing the service into the building and screening it all. We've also internalized the access to the transformers so that can happen all within our property, screened from the neighbors. We have a little bit of surface parking here as well as some loading spaces, and then the main vehicular entrance is to the north off of 6th Street.
Can I interrupt you
Yeah,
for
of course.
1 minute,
Yeah.
Mike? I've heard maybe that the audio is a little crackly online, so
Okay.
I'm wondering if we could take a moment to readjust the microphones, or if there's, okay.
We had some new equipment installed. Nothing we can do at this point.
Okay,
We've done everything we can.
all right. Apologies for the interruption.
It's okay.
I'm just trying to make sure everyone
I'm
can
gonna-
hear your
I'm-
design story.
I'm tall, so I might be too far away, so I'll try to get closer and enunciate better. Hopefully that helps.
All right, thanks.
Yes, of course. So I believe I was touching briefly on the vehicular entrance. So off of 6th Street is the main vehicular entrance with a few surface spaces and then the ramp to the above grade parking garage. In the center of the site, that pedestrian alley connects through. The main refuse and service comes from 6th Street through our property and then into that loading space, minimizing or eliminating the need to circulate east and west on the alley through adjacent properties. Moving up the, bollards as well. We also have bollards on the east and west side. They're quite small, but you can see them here. Those are removable bollards to prevent vehicular traffic when they are in use. Moving up through the floor plan, the second level and third level are parking. The third level will also become the fourth level. So this is still reflecting that previous plan where we have not added that additional floor of parking just yet. So level 4 will be parking, this will be level 5, and so on. Above that parking podium, we have a partial amenity level. So there's some amenity space for the residents and some outdoor patio. As Darren had mentioned, we've tried to move all of these activated uses to the west side and really scale down these two to right size them for the development. So the east side of the property has no balconies any longer and does not have accessible roof area. As we move up to the upper floors, this is the typical level that would be from here to the upper level, which is all residents. And then at the very top, we have a roof deck where we've got the main pool and the main amenity features, both some enclosed program as well as some outdoor program. But again, purposely putting this at the southwest corner to really concentrate uses as far away from our neighbors as possible. Briefly touching on the sanctuary or showing this in a little bit more detail. On the right-hand side, you can see the footprint of the sanctuary, the portion of the building that does have the pitched roof and the steeple, as well as a few elevations in the upper right and some dashed lines that show the points at which the structures to the south touch that building. And so the intent there is to remove those structures, re-expose the sanctuary sort of in its entirety, and restore those affected areas to match what is existing today. And so that would be the condition in which it is transferred. And I believe that is the end of my portion. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just in closing, you know, it's been a long ride. There's been a lot of development changes. There's been a lot of design changes. There was lime green in here at one point. I'm glad that's not in there anymore. There have been just a lot of wonderful collaborations, especially with the city. So on behalf of Wexford and Wexford Developments and Core Spaces, we are thrilled to be at this point, and we obviously hope that you are as excited as we are for this and vote to approve our project to move forward to City Council. So thank you, and if you have any questions, obviously we're here.
Any questions for the applicant before we ask staff to come forward?
Yeah, I would like to hear a little bit more about some of the finishes also applied to the tower. It's a large building downtown, so there's a lot of surface area. I'd like to hear a little bit more.
Sure thing. Let me jump back to a few elevations. The renderings I think will show it best. So in general, we have a facade that is composed of glass, metal panel, and ephes. So the darker red colors and the darker gray colors are metal panels. And we've tried to purposely focus our attention on these kind of prime corners. So the extreme corners of the building is where we're trying to focus some of the materiality and some of the sort of premium, if you will, and try to simplify some of the other areas and sort of create a little bit of a hierarchy of what areas are getting that focus. So in this shot, what you see, the darker sort of brick red color and the darker gray that infills that is metal panel. And then we do have some ephes panels on the white and the other lighter gray elements elsewhere. At the garage, we've got a perforated metal screen with this expressed frame. So it's perforated to a point that we can get natural ventilation, so it does have some transparency. And then we're also expressing some of the structure that's required of the frame itself, or just the structure that's required to support that. We are expressing that as an additional frame there to create a little bit of interest. And then along the frontage, we have a collection of some overhangs and some louvered canopies that provide shade. The dominant features of the streetscape are some brick as well as some lighter metal panels that frame out some of these more feature openings, as well as glass, of course, for the retail and amenity spaces.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Spears?
So in adding the additional floor of parking, then is that going to extend that metal facing to the next story?
It would. One of the things you're seeing here, we are intentionally sort of biasing the proportion of the garage, and we'd like to try to continue that. So rather than, we'd like to obscure the sort of levels of the garage and the facade itself. And so I think there is some that we can do of sort of stretching those that composition a bit. But yes, the garage level would get added to this, and there would be additional height of screening required to screen that garage.
So that's an additional 10 feet of screening.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
Commissioner Forte?
I was wondering if you have uncovered a commercial tenant yet for the potential restaurant commercial space?
Not yet, but we know there's a lot of interest. We've heard there was a lot of interest. We're excited for that part.
And Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to the additional parking. So just in terms of the alternatives that the city staff suggested, what kind of diligence was done to compare going down a level versus going up a level? And then with this additional level, does that get the city what they were suggesting?
Yes, so I can, my understanding is that the 19.5 is where we were trying to get to, or the 195, and this gets us to that number. To speak briefly on the below grade parking, we've honestly studied below grade parking on this site for a number of years, and the sort of reality that we've come to, or sort of the way that the world has worked now, is that it's just much more difficult to make below grade parking pencil. The other challenge that we have, so there's a significant cost increase for below grade versus above grade. And one of the big challenges, I think it's forward, sorry, as we look at the site logistics, the opportunity to, the alley poses a lot of challenges in terms of maintaining that and trying to go below grade while at the same time going above grade. We would not have the ability to provide all of the parking below grade, so it would need to be some combination of the two, and the efficiency and the access starts to become very challenging to provide space for a below grade ramp and an above grade ramp and try to get an efficient footprint in the building shape.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Commissioner Redmond?
You have a drawing of where it matches the down ramp into the Brickyards parking lot.
Yes.
I just walked over it tonight, that area, and it's a very complicated area, how you're going to segue from your building and your front and sidewalk to there, and then there's the townhouses with parking in front of them that'll also be your neighbor.
Correct.
And then on the north side, you know, you have this sanctuary right up against your building almost. And then the funny join at 6th Street where there's a circle turnaround. And how are you matching all this? I mean,
sure. Yeah, so I can talk briefly about, I'll just work from south to north. So at the south side, you can see it here. I don't think I have a pointer, but at the crosswalk that you see there, immediately to the left of that, our sidewalk would be contiguous with the sidewalk that goes across the main ramp. No doubt there is, it's a street crossing, right? So Myrtle Avenue still is an actively used street, so there'll be people going down that ramp, and so we need to make sure that there's, caution there or care there, but it would maintain more or less the condition that it is today, where there is the required width of the sidewalk is maintained in its entirety from our property across Myrtle and to the adjacent property. You'll also see kind of immediately, not quite parallel because there's an angled element to the Brickyard Drive, but there is a vertical path that is on the Brickyard property that follows the Brickyard ramp. That is on their property and is effectively a remnant, to my understanding, of the right-of-way, right? So that's effectively the sidewalk that happens there. That will be maintained and that will stay there. So you can still traverse the full length of our site on the left-hand side. And the goal is for that sidewalk to more or less be undisturbed. Obviously, with the amount of activity we have, there's protection that will need to be in place there. And any disturbance would need to be sort of put back to its existing condition. So as you sort of trace the left-hand side of the property, you can then see a slight angle, which also, more or less exists today, where you connect that frontage to the church side. There's a couple of those squares that you see on the plan there. There's some existing tree grates and a few existing trees up there on the west-hand side. Access to the Brickyard parking lot is unique. It kind of comes around the bank over here and traverses back there. But the goal from our perspective is to sort of keep that as much as is. The grades are actually pretty okay over there. There's a few instances as we need to coordinate kind of our finished floor from the bicycle room, but the alley already exists today, connecting those without grade issues, as well as the church. So the goal is to sort of maintain all of that activity on that west-hand side from a pedestrian perspective.
All right. That answer your question, Commissioner
As well
Redmond?
as we can.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
I have one other question.
One more question.
And maybe this is to staff and not to you. I assume these transfers to the city are at no cost, but they cost the city eventually. And so how is that? You have these two buildings you're giving to the city. How is that sort of figured in? I didn't notice anything that said, and the city will be happy to pay for this. And
I don't know if I can answer that one, but.
We
we can wait on that for the staff.
Yeah. Why don't, we can hold on that question and give it to staff after their presentation.
Got it, okay.
We may call you up after you hear staff and other comments.
Happy to.
Thanks. All right, with that, I'd ask that Karen, if you would come and present the staff report for item 5.8.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Karen Stovall, Senior Planner. I will come over here. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a 1.53 acre site located at the northeast corner of Myrtle and 7th Street and extends up north to 6th Street. The applicant is proposing a new 29-story mixed-use development, which includes applications for zoning map amendment to remove the historic property overlay from 0.76 acres, a new planned area development overlay to modify the CCTOD zoning district development standards, and a development plan review for the site plan, landscape plan, and building elevations. The requested zoning map amendment is to remove the historic property overlay from 0.76 acres, leaving the historic overlay on the remaining 0.22 acres that contains the historic sanctuary portion of the church. The proposed PAD would allow 818 units at a density of 535 dwelling units per acre. The unit types include studios, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. The PAD proposes a height of 315 feet, lot coverage of 90%, and a minimum landscape area of 25%. The PAD also proposes alternative vehicle parking ratios that would require 244 spaces, but as stated by the applicant, we've come to an agreement that would increase the ratio to require a minimum of 382 spaces, which is supported by their parking analysis. I am going to skip over the design of the project. I think the applicant has been very thorough in discussing that. There was a neighborhood meeting required for this project, and it was held in January of this year. Approximately 45 people attended and expressed a variety of concerns. Some of them are listed on this slide. The applicant has made a lot of modifications to the project to address the more significant concerns brought to them by members of the ICC as well. We received 8 emails, the majority of them from members of the ICC, and all have been provided to you either in the staff report, and I believe one was provided to you during or before the study session. We are recommending approval of the requests subject to several unique conditions of approval. Those are regarding a vehicle parking ratio of 0.195 spaces per bedroom, and that would get to the 382 vehicle parking spaces for residents. Allowance of a maximum building height of 325 feet if they do choose to add a level of above grade parking. Capping the maximum number of bedrooms to 1,957, which is their current proposal. Requiring an easement for the alley that is to be abandoned and installation of removable bollards. Enhancements to the alley, provision of EV parking spaces and EV-ready parking spaces, restricted roof access for maintenance purposes only beyond the amenity decks on the 4th and 29th floors. And there are other modifications to the plans regarding the streetscape on 7th Street, the garage design, and the east building elevation. The applicant has reviewed the recommended conditions, and we believe we're in agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Commissioner Spears?
There isn't a development agreement on this property, is that correct?
I will actually be deferring to April Croner of Economic Development Department to discuss the development agreement.
Thank you.
Good evening, planning commissioners. Or, sorry, I always call them planning. Always call you planning commissioners, and it's development review. So apologies for that. The city is currently working with the developer on negotiating a development agreement for this project that will not be going forward to City Council until May 22nd.
Can you share with us some of the basic terms of that agreement and how what we decide would impact that? If
I cannot share those details at this time. That will be, the development agreement will be included in the May 22nd council packet. Yes.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. So as it's been discussed tonight about the sanctuary building being conveyed back to the city, is that part of the development agreement, though?
That is part of the development agreement.
Okay. So I guess my concern is having that go sideways. Like I feel like tonight, whatever we approve is under the assumption that the sanctuary is getting preserved, getting conveyed back to the city. And then I guess if it was alluded to that it may convey at building permit, but what if the project stalls out, never gets to building permit, and then the sanctuary never gets conveyed and just sits there? So those are my concerns in terms of, I appreciate the developer and applicant working with the city to try to preserve that asset, and I think that asset's going to be a great, adaptive reuse type project, but I would hate for it to not be able to get back into the hands of the city because it never gets agreed upon in the development agreement, or somehow the project gets stalled out. So maybe you can't speak to those things, but and I'm sure that'll come up with council, but I guess that's my biggest concern about how this is structured and the sequence of events and the consequences of one to the other.
And I guess I would just respond that both the city and the developer are working collaboratively on this, and are hopeful that the project will be able to move forward. Again, it's really up to the development agreement, what gets approved through that.
And I'll just add to that, this has been timed so that the second city council hearing for what you're seeing occurs on the same agenda as the development agreement. So if the development agreement is approved and council chooses to approve these planning applications, it would occur at the same time on the same agenda.
Actually, and you wouldn't have known this because this just came up. So I will just say that the first reading of the development agreement, because it will be approved by ordinance, will be on May 22nd, when this item is at the second hearing for city council. And then we will not be going for development agreement approval until July 1st. There is a 60-day notification period because this is part of a GPLIT. And we do have to give out that 60-day notification. So if we do that prior to May 1st, the soonest we can have that second hearing would be July 1st. That's when the city council is having a July meeting.
Commissioner Spears?
I have some issues with timing, having been part of development deals before, development agreements at the city level. I am not comfortable with the delay. What happens if, for some reason, they approve the development agreement, but they don't approve the plan. I mean, there are too many balls up in the air, in my opinion.
Can I just ask what plan, if they don't approve what plan?
For instance, the parking, they decide that you don't really need the parking anymore. We're going to do something else. We're going to make an agreement to do something else. Yes, it's nice that we have zero setback, but we've got general plan calling for tree canopies and things like that. And so let's remove those. Is there a way to get the development agreement approved before we make a decision on the development plan?
There is not a way to do that because we do have that 60-day wait period for the GPLIT. So we have negotiated the terms with the City Council and received approval to move forward with that. So the term sheet does identify the major components of that development agreement. And I would just say, the other thing I would add relative to a lot of the timing, to try to bring the development agreement forward prior to approval of the plan in this case would really change or could change the potential public benefit. Let's say the plan didn't get approved as proposed and there was a change to address parking or building heights were reduced, so it resulted in a change in the number of units. All of that impacts their GPLIT and the lease that we enter into and the development agreement, because they would it would all result in different amounts. So,
Can you tell me what the public benefit that's being proposed?
the total amount of public benefit, is that what you're looking at? There's numerous components to the public benefit that are being proposed.
So when the public, is it affordable housing?
No, there's no affordable housing here.
So what is the public benefit? Not dollar amount, just what is, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand the project, and it's not making sense right now, so.
Right. I guess I would just say that right now, what you're reviewing is the development review portion of it. You're not reviewing the term sheet or the DA. Those pieces are going later and are separate from what you're reviewing here. But there's nearly $10 million in public benefit from this project, and it comes in various forms. The details of all of that are provided again at the time of the term sheet. We have a draft economic impact statement or impact study that's provided to us. So we have all of those things, but it will go to DA, and again, that's when it will be shared with the public at that time.
Right.
Commission members, if I could add to as well, and I think both April and I are in agreement. There's a lot of complex moving parts on this, several hearings. We've already had 2 right now, with one with HPC and then the City Council appeal. And it would be without understanding some of those parts that there are negotiations for deal points. I think it's been talked about to offer the sanctuary up to the city. So that is a proposed element of the DA. The Harry Walker House, which is obviously a DA component. And then we've got the public alley abandonment too, that ties into all those aspects of that processes. And without getting those elements done or completed, then I think would be remiss to say that we wouldn't be approving the same plan that we have here before you today without those negotiated elements still being a part of this process and this plan. So while she can't explain all the elements or aspects of the DA components, those are significant components to the site plan of approval process that we're asking for you to act on or make a recommendation for.
I have a question.
Commissioner Top.
Since there's a removal of a historic preservation component here, is it possible that we add a condition that the sanctuary be deeded or given to the city as part of the condition of approval? That's not in there, but they're willing to do it.
Don't object to that. We don't have any objections to that.
Okay.
Linda, did you have any other comments? You'll save your comments. Okay. If there's no more comments for staff, we can conclude the staff presentation portion. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll open the citizen component. So you have public input. If you're here to speak on behalf of this project, please make sure you fill out one of these comment cards and bring it up to Joanna Berry. I currently have 3 individuals looking to speak. We do have a timer, so please hold your comments to approximately 3 minutes. And you'll have some lights up there suggesting when your 3 minutes is coming to a conclusion. The first individual I have is Kay Price. If you'll come forward and state your name and city of residence for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Kay Price. I live at Orchid House right now. I've lived in Tempe for 40 years. I don't know, a long time. Raised my children here. They all went to ASU. I went to ASU. I live in Orchid House now, as well as managing several properties on Mill with my son. And my main concern for coming here today was making sure that the sanctuary and the steeple cross all stay there. And it sounds like that's going to happen, but I like your idea of making that a stipulation for approval, because that's very important to me, just as a city as a whole, to have that symbol still there to bless the city. So that's why I came, that's my concern, and that's my request.
Perfect. Thank you for coming. The next comment card I have is from Matthew Hannon.
I withdraw my request.
Okay. And the last comment card I have is Philip Yates. Please state your name and city of residence for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Phil Yates, and I'm the president for the Riverside Neighborhood Association. And one of my main concerns is that we have definitely not taken into consideration that this is a historic area, and we need to start thinking about how we are going to make sure that we preserve the fact that this is a very diverse city, and any kind of changes that are made that can put these kinds of areas in jeopardy should never be considered. And that is one of the things that is on the agenda for approval this evening, and I would definitely say that that is something that should not be done. And also, the height of this, 29 stories, is really, really out of character for the area. And 818 dwelling units without any affordable housing seems to be, well, I know that I've listened to a whole lot of people that want to have affordable housing in the city of Tempe, and I would like to see if we have anything that is of this magnitude that is brought to the center of the city of Tempe, that we address that. We need to think about, hey, you know, there are a lot of people that live in the city already, don't have to necessarily move into the city, but live here and would like to raise their families here. And to just say, well, yeah, we have 818 dwelling units and it's going to be 29 stories high, seems to be like the developer just is not taking into consideration those needs of the people that live here, the people that would like to move into our city. So I would respectfully ask that everyone decline this, and for further evaluation to look into these kinds of problems that we do have in the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yates.
And Vice Chair Schwartz, I just wanted to remind you, I do have 2 people online that are waiting to speak after the last speaker. They've submitted their comment cards earlier to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. I have next Darcy Ortiz.
Good evening, thank you. Darcy Ortiz. I'm a resident of Orchid House in the Brickyard. I would just like, I heard tonight that a lot of considerations were taken for ICC and a lot of things were moved, amenities from the apartments there to the west side. Now that is where the Orchid House is, where there are residents as well. And so I just like there to be consideration for our residents as well, and noises and things that we might incur because of amenities on the west side now facing us. And I would hope also, we saw a lot of landscaping on the front facade along the side with parking that faces our building also. I'd like that taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here present in the audience who would like to speak? All right, with that, I'll ask for our first online participant. I'm sorry, I don't know the name.
First participant is David Sokolowski. I just sent him a
request on mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is David Sokolowski. I live in Tempe. I'm here to support this project because there is always opposition to new housing, and it doesn't matter where we try to build. We're in a severe housing crisis, and we need 34,000 units by 2030. That's why it's important to approve projects like this one. A lot of people don't want to commute 2 hours each day from Queen Creek. Time is money, and that would be worth $2,000 a month. That's why there's a lot of competition to rent an apartment in Tempe, and why the rents are so expensive. Voting no on this project wouldn't remove the demand to be in Tempe, and it doesn't reduce traffic because people still have to show up to work. To reduce traffic, we need people to live downtown and without owning a car. Up to 30% of Tempe is already car light or car free. I was car free long before cul-de-sac was a concept. You shouldn't be concerned with people sneaking their cars into the city. There are plenty of market rate apartments with parking. Why would a driver rent an apartment that doesn't have parking? That would be insane. Many young people, students, and renters don't have representation at public hearings like this one, even though we're 60% of the city. I think it might be hard for some people to understand why many of us want parking reforms, to make housing more affordable and more sustainable. The market is finally providing what we want. If we include parking for this project, it could cost millions of dollars, increase the building's carbon footprint, and promote car ownership in our congested downtown. The parking standards don't serve the needs of many people in our community, and I would support this project with the reduced parking. I want you to approve this project and work to solve our housing shortage of 34,000 units. We can't wait another 10 years for our state to become like California. We need to get the housing crisis under our control before the state takes control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sokolowski. And our second online participant?
We have Omar Abdallah.
Mr. Abdallah, can you hear us?
Fine.
All right, we have 3 minutes for you to provide your comments.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Omar Abdallah. I'm an attorney representing the Islamic Community Center of Tempe. I apologize I couldn't be there in person today. ICC is the mosque that's immediately adjacent to the development on its east side. It's been there for 40 years. It serves thousands of people. I've been a member there myself and attending since I went to ASU for both college and law school. Obviously, ICC will be very impacted by this proposal. The height, the parking, the traffic through the alley that we share, and a few other things. That being said, we've been working very productively with the applicant for years now, I think. Darren, Doug, their whole team, they've been very communicative with us, and they've made changes to address our concerns. We've also been working closely with city staff, Karen, Ryan, Jeff, everyone at the city who's been excellent to work with. We agree with staff's stipulations, and we think they're very important here. There certainly is a need to increase the parking for this project so that they can contain all of their parking needs on site. The removable bollards, it's very important to ICC that removing them would require notice to the neighbors and city approval. We also want to ensure that a future owner of the development can't just have the bollards removed administratively. We did not know that this was a GIPLET deal, so we'd still want to be sure that this would be the case if the property is later owned by the city. The dog run, we requested some additional screening there, or preferably, ideally, we prefer it to be relocated away from ICC's boundary. So all of that being said, we thank the applicants for their flexibility and for working with us, for city staff that's been so helpful and communicative with us throughout this process, and we appreciate all of your time tonight, commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. Are there any more online? Okay. With that, the public hearing is closed for this, and I will open up the floor for commission discussion. Oh, apologies. Would the applicant like to come up and respond to any of the comments heard?
Thank you. I just want that. Yes, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, and thank you to Mr. Abdallah. We've been working quite a bit. We've had quite a few meetings, and it definitely has been a wonderful process to work with. Finding out the details of their use of the property really helps a lot, and we will continue to work with them as owners and developers of the property when they have events or they have needs that they need our help with. Absolutely, that is something that we would love to know about and work with them as our neighbor, and that's a big commitment on our end. Let's see, where am I go here? So we definitely have been on a long road here. Our project, the biggest part of our project really preserves the sanctuary. That's a big part of our project. If anything changed with that development agreement, or if anything changed, like you had mentioned, if anything happened, this project just wouldn't happen. Nothing would move forward, and someone else would have to come back in with a new project. So we are very committed. Our construction timeline is very quick. We are looking at potentially breaking ground in the next few months, pulling permits this year, potentially, either the end of this year or early next, and getting this project moving as quickly as possible. We are hopeful that we can move quickly on these council schedules, but we've got to live with the council agendas that we have. So we really have just the next couple of council agendas to move forward with. Kind of just to clarify that, we are moving quickly. We are moving this project forward, and we are committed to saving that sanctuary building and the Harry Walker House. We actually have a consultant that's been waiting for us to find a location, and we'll get that moving as soon as possible as well. So I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. Ms. Sender, can you speak to the audience members' concern about moving the rooftop amenities to the west versus the east and how that impacts the neighbors to the west? I looked at the plan and it looked like it was still pretty far away from the Orchid House, but can you touch on that?
Yeah, exactly. Ms. Chair, Commissioner Lloyd, absolutely. When we moved it to the west, we moved it to the southwest. We did not want to move it to the northwest quarter of the building, which is closer to the residential portion of the Brickyard, which is the Orchid House. And it is facing to the southwest, closer to the Union, closer to the Weston, and to the Olive. So it's the furthest possible away we could get it. That kind of made sure we weren't on the east side impacting the ICC, and we weren't on the west side impacting Orchid House. That was a big consideration of ours, yes.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will open it up for commission discussion. All right.
It's a conditions question.
All right, go for it, Commissioner.
Um, Karen, condition 1 and 2 deal with our parking ratio. The applicant has agreed to item C of that condition. Can we eliminate the rest of it, or should we just leave this? And then condition 2 is the height that condition C increases. So we just have options that are going to be conditioned that I don't want them to be able to go back to.
So, Chairperson and Commissioner Tom. Yes, sorry. So we have not seen actual plans that demonstrate how they're going to provide those 382 spaces.
Okay.
We don't want to recommend a stipulation that might not work for them. So that's why we wanted to keep those options in there. If they choose any of those options, those would all work. But we have not seen, plans have not been submitted to us that demonstrate that they can provide that with one level of additional parking. So we don't want to limit
Okay.
it. That's the question.
Okay, so, that makes sense then. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to make comments on the record?
From the design standpoint, I do have an issue with adding that 10 feet of vertical facing for the garage, and with that same material and the way it looks, it's from a pedestrian standpoint, that's all you're going to see, is the metal facade. But what concerns me the most about this project is exactly what Darren just indicated in terms of if the development agreement is not approved, this does not get built. And we already have 2 projects that have been approved on University that are sitting not developed for over a year now. And this is tying up property for a period of time, and even if it's just July, I'm just not comfortable with the way the deal is being structured. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Spears. All right, Commissioner Lloyd.
All right, thank you. Well, I share those concerns, but aside from that, I guess I will just say that, I think it's a lot of density and a lot of project, but I've given up that fight because I understand that this is in the general plan and I accept this is where we put these types of projects. I do appreciate the applicant, and staff knows I like projects that are underparked down in the downtown core. But I thought your first crack at it was a bit extreme, so I'm glad that you came up to staff's recommendations on that. So part of me feels that this is really trying to push the envelope on getting as much project onto the site as possible. But overall, I appreciate some of the flexibility and cooperation you've shown with the neighbors and all of their concerns. So in general, I think I support the project, but I do highly share Commissioner Spears' concerns of what happens if things go awry and now we're stuck with, an asset in our downtown community and assets that we've lost with the House of Tricks sitting there for years undeveloped. So I hope we can trust your word. Everyone who comes up here says they're going to break ground and get permits. And so, this one seems a bit more consequential than some others that we might see.
Commissioner Forte.
Yeah, so I was having some conversations about this project with some community members, and they had a pretty interesting idea. It's not lost on anyone. This is going to be one of the tallest buildings in Tempe. If there's if the applicant would be okay with maybe having 1 or 2 times a year where a Tempe-based nonprofit could utilize the observatory deck for some sort of event. Just wondering your thought of that.
Thank you for your comment. Maybe that's something that could be discussed at a later time. I appreciate that. That's probably not a part of the development plan review at this point, but something, appreciate you having it on the record and having that input. Hopefully, once we get to see the elements of the agreement, maybe there's items in there that would also show that public benefit and could be shared back to the community. Commissioner Richter.
I would also echo appreciating staff's and the applicant's flexibility on underparking the project. It is an urban location, so getting cars out of downtown is a good thing. We have lots of options, so keep my comment short.
Commissioner Redmond.
There's lots of good elements about this process that we've heard, and I'm pleased that everyone's working together. My main hesitation, and it's similar to other projects, is building all these very tall block buildings without lots of space between them. When we look at the map of downtown Tempe, a lot of areas are open plazas. And that when we asked about that in our combined commission council meeting, I think virtually all of those plazas in downtown Tempe are part of the developments. They're not city-owned. And we're approving lots of new buildings now in this one area without any plazas, significant plazas in between them or among them. And that's a disappointment to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Redmond. I guess I'll just add a few additional comments. I also appreciate the parking ratios, but I'm very happy to see the additional, whether it's one level or those 4 options. I like having the 4 options there because I actually think a couple of the options might be better than the additional level going up. So keeping those 4 options in there is something that I would appreciate and suggest keeping in there. I'd also, if it does go up 1 level, I feel like the materiality of that metal might be better than EIFS. So it's better than EIFS. So while maybe that isn't a material you would choose or some other members would choose, we're putting that material up higher, the one that we would choose to see less of. Would anyone care to make a motion? Commissioner Tom.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Tom, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Commissioner Tom had asked for a condition related to conveying ownership of the church, but after consultation amongst staff, it's been determined that that's not the purview of the DRC because the church parcel is not part of the PAD.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Would anyone else care to make a motion? I guess, Commissioner Tom, maybe your motion is predicated on that additional condition of approval.
I would like to see that. We're removing, essentially, we're taking off historic preservation on a portion of this property, and they're conveying the remainder of that sanctuary to the city. So we're essentially kind of horse trading here. We're taking away HP, but they're giving us the sanctuary. Legally, I understand where staff is at.
As you, okay. Commissioner Spears.
I would move for the approval of PL 230162 with the conditions of approval as stated by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Spears, seconded by Commissioner Richter. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And opposed? All right, motion passes 5-2 with Commissioner Spears and Commissioner Redmond in dissent. All right. Thank everyone for coming out and providing their comments today on the case. With that, that concludes the items on our agenda for today. I'll ask, is there any commission member announcements? Commissioner Forte.
We have a Keep Tempe Beautiful cleanup this Saturday from 8 to 11 at Tempe Town Lake North
All right.
for Earth Month.
Happy Earth Day. Are there any city staff announcements?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll just see you at the May 13th meeting. Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll adjourn the meeting. The next scheduled meeting date of the DRC is May 13th. Same place, same time.
I asked for an alternate.